Today we're reading Front Desk by Kelly Yang, Chapter 61. Chapter 61 begins on page 256. The kind people at Pizza Hut let me keep my coupon as a souvenir. Carefully, I taped it up next to the front desk so I could look at it every day while I worked. I wished I could tell my cousin Shen about it. The whole time Lupe was talking about her cousins in Mexico, I was thinking about Shen. There was this restaurant that Shen and I would always walk by on our way to school. It was a fancy Western restaurant, the only one in town, and naturally, it was way too expensive. Every time we walked by it, Shen and I would talk about what it would be like to one day go in there when we grew up and order whatever we wanted. If Shen knew that today I'd gone to Pizza Hut, and for free, too, he'd be so proud of me. I smiled at the thought. I pulled out a piece of paper and started writing him a letter. If my mom didn't want to tell his mom anything about her, fine, but I just had to tell Shen. It'd been a while since I last wrote. The last letter was before we started working for Mr. Yao. I wrote quickly, scribbling away about Lupe and Hank and Mr. Yao. I wrote about the car theft and the crazy security guard and freeing Uncle Zhang. I wrote about school and Jason, who wasn't quite so bad anymore, even though he still had my pencil. I told him about the essay contest and how I didn't win, but that Lupe and I were going to figure out another way to get off the roller coaster together. Finally, I told him about Mrs. Douglas and my writing, how it had gone from 12 exclamation marks bad to 4 exclamation marks good. I even drew a picture of the Pizza Hut coupon so he could see for himself. In my neatest handwriting, I copied down all the words on the coupon, including the little expiration date at the bottom, so he would know exactly what it looked like. I was nearly done when the mailman came. "Can you just wait a second?" I begged the mailman. "I want to mail this letter to my cousin in China. I just need to get the address from my parents. It'll just take a second." "Did you say China?" he asked. He poked around in his big sack of letters and produced an envelope. "Looks like you just got something from there today." I peered at the letter in his hands. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the address. It was from Shen. "Thank you so much," I told the mailman. I was so excited I forgot all about mailing my own letter to Shen and tore open his letter to me. The mailman chuckled as he left. It was a very long letter, 5 pages long, to be exact. It was extremely detailed, and Shen even separated it into sections. There was a section on school, a section on neighborhood, and a section on our family. Typical him, he was always super organized. I raced through the letter, gulping it down as quickly as I could. I giggled at Shen's description of his new teacher, Mr. Wang, and how he couldn't sneeze without farting at the same time. He told me all about the new kids at his school. Many of them were from the outskirts of the city. The entire neighborhood was changing. All throughout the city, people were starting to buy up property. The government was tearing down the old brick buildings to make room for new high-rises. When I got to the section on our family, though my eyes did a double take. We recently moved to an apartment by the river because it's bigger. After you guys left, my dad was made head of department at his job. Long story short, the job came with a much bigger apartment. I no longer have to share with my parents. Now I have my own room. Oh, and we also got a car. Nothing like what you guys have in America, I'm sure. But it's pretty great. Last weekend we went to Beijing and walked around the Great Wall. We had lunch at a brand new Peking duck restaurant. It was really fancy. Do they have Peking duck in America? Over and over I read the words, new apartment, own room, car. I looked down at my own letter on the table and at my handwriting, which a minute ago looked neat and now looked puny. Slowly I reread my words, how I'd gone on and on about the poor roller coaster and my pencil, my excitement of finally going to an American restaurant, how my stomach growled when I made myself put the pizza back so I could save some for my dad. The more I read, the more my fingers stiffened. Suddenly, I didn't feel like sending my letter anymore. With my hands heavy as rocks, I took my letter and Shen's letter and walked over to my closet. I stuffed them both way in the back together with my C- story and the rejection letter from the essay contest. Was it true? Was Shen rich now? The wild thought bounced around in my head as I tossed and turned. My lips formed around the word rich. Rich. It was like a passcode to a different galaxy, and now Shen was part of the galaxy, and I wasn't. Could it be that while our life had gotten so hard, his life had gotten so much easier? The thought was so painful to bear, I couldn't stand it. I rushed to lick my wounds. Shen may have his own room now, but I was pretty sure he still didn't have a bathroom with a shower. He still had to go to the neighborhood bathhouse, and his dad may have gotten a good job, but they'd still never flown in an airplane and never stayed in a hotel before. With every never, I felt my panic subside. Later, when I could finally breathe again, guilt cut into me like the harsh fluorescent front office lights. How could I feel this way about my own cousin? He was family. If he was doing well, I should be happy for him. I should be proud of him because, after all, if his family was rich now, didn't that mean... I sat up in bed. Mom! And that's where that chapter ends, so...